The thing about Chelsea is life is never boring. Hey chaps, welcome back to properchels.tv. I'm your host, Logan Blue. And in today's episode, we're going to do a bit of a match preview for the upcoming Conference League match against Servette, who are a Swiss team. Now, it's a bit ignominious for a club the size of Chelsea to be in the Conference League. And as you'll probably remember, last season we finished in the Europa League places. However, Manchester United won the FA Cup, and as they hadn't qualified for Europe at all, they took our place in the Europa League, and we ended up being nudged back down into the Conference League. So, okay, that's the bad news. The good news is that we have never been in the Conference League, and we will be favorites for this. Now, as fans, we've sung many times, we've won it all, and we are one of the very few clubs who have won everything, from the Club World Cup through the Champions League to our own leagues, FA Cup, League Cup, Cup Winners' Cup, the old Fairs, the Milk Cup, a whole bunch of stuff we've won down through the years. However, we've never played in this competition, so we've never won it. So as much as we don't like playing on a Thursday night and we don't like playing in the Conference League, which is for the rejects or the rejects as far as European competition goes, I'm actually okay with it because I want us to win it, because it'll be the first trophy under the new ownership and under the new manager. The first trophy for many of our first teamers. So, instilling a winning mentality is always, really important. Confidence is a big thing in football, as I'm sure you know. But if we can win it, then we can actually truly say we have won everything. And yeah, sure, we'd swap it for a third Champions League, but hey, it's going to be great. If we win it, it'll be a big thumbs up, to the new team. So yeah, fingers crossed we can do that. But first of all, we've got to get through this playoff match with Servette FC. Now, who are Servette FC? It's a good question because I can't say I had ever heard of them either. But they're actually a team that's older than Chelsea. Chelsea, of course, famously was founded in 1905, but Servette were founded back in 1890. Okay, throughout their history, they have been consistently playing in the top Swiss league, which is now known as the Swiss Super League. Okay, but they had a very small ground, which had structural issues, and in the mid 90s, I think it was, they had to. In the late 80s, they had to limit the capacity for the ground, and the ground basically had 9,000 people. So we've got non-league teams that have a bigger stadium than that. So in the early 2000s, they invested a lot of money in building a new all-seater, 30,000 strong stadium. Okay, great, brilliant, lovely. Except that it caused them financial hardships, and they ended up going into bankruptcy. Okay, which for a club is no laughing matter, especially for a club that's over a century old, and has loyal and dedicated fans in Switzerland. Now, for those old enough to remember, Chelsea nearly went into bankruptcy in the 80s when Uncle Ken Bates, ended up saving our bacon by buying the club for £1 and taking on all the club's debts. And it was Uncle Ken who grew Chelsea to becoming not a European giant, but a team that won things, that was always there or thereabouts. Because in the 89 season, when we got promoted back from the old second division as champions back into the Division 1 as it was, or Premier League as it obviously became, ever since then we've been a team that very rarely had to worry about fighting against relegation, and more often than not were top 10 and somewhere in the top 6. Okay, we were never quite good enough to win the league back then, but we did win a whole bunch of cups, right? We famously lost the 1994 FA Cup final to Man United 4-0. That was painful. But obviously, we won the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1998 with Zola grumpily coming off the bench and scoring the winner. My God, I enjoyed that. But yeah, so when we talk of Servette having gone into bankruptcy, we shouldn't scoff at that, because there, but for the grace of God, go I, as the saying goes, and we absolutely could have been that team. Right, we could have been that team. But yeah, so what happened was, Servette went into bankruptcy, right? But their fans ended up setting up basically an under-21 version of the team, and they bought the name of the administrators, right? So the fans rebuilt the side. They had to start 2 leagues down in Switzerland, right? And they've grown the club again from the ground up. Right, the fans financed this, and obviously, money and owners have changed, and things have grown for them in that time. But I think it's a brilliant story that the club goes into bankruptcy because it's just forked out for a beautiful new stadium. They get relegated to their version of the 3rd division, right? And then they still don't have a team, and so the club. The players, they lost a lot of players. They lost pretty much everyone worth having, from what I've read. But the fans and the under-21, the youth academy for Servette, ended up forming a new team, starting again in the old 3rd division. And lo and behold, they eventually rise and reclaim their place there or thereabouts in the Swiss league. Okay. So this is the team we're playing. A bit of history, right? And I really quite like that. They sound like a terrific club with some really good fans behind them. So let's have a bit of a dive into who's managing them, right? They've got a guy called Thomas Halberli. And Thomas Halberli, I apologize for the enunciation, but it's got one of those tricky umlauts above the A. So make of that what you will. And I apologize, Thomas, if you're watching. If I've butchered your name. But Thomas is a relatively new coach. He's had one season in 2019 with... he's coached a lot, right? So, but he's gone through like a youth coach, an under-18 coach for about 2009-10, under-18 coach, caretaker coach, an assistant coach, under-21 coach. This is all with young boys. Then he went to Basel and he was under-21 coach and an assistant. Then he got his first managerial gig in 2019, which was with a Swiss club called Luzem, L-U-Z-E-M. And Luzem only lasted for one season, right? He gets fired, okay? Then he's out of work. But in 2021, he gets the gig as the Estonia national team manager. And he was the Estonia national team manager from 2021 to 2024, when he then leaves Estonia and ends up getting the gig with Servette. However, he only, I think I made notes here, 10th of June. So the new manager has only been with Servette from the 10th of June. So it's very much like our new manager, pretty much just walked through the door, and he's got to, make the best of, a bad situation. And not a bad situation. Servette in the previous season finished 3rd in the Swiss Super League, which was okay. But where Servette are coming in cropper, if you will, is that their top scorer was a guy called Chris Bedia, right? And Chris Bedia scored 17 goals, pretty much a goal every 2 games last season, right? But they've sold him. So they're a selling club. So they've sold their best player, and they're currently already in their season. So their fitness is going to be so much better than ours. But they are 5 games into the season. They are currently sitting 3rd. Okay. I don't know. Sorry, that was last season. That was last season, right? They're currently sitting. Let me see, fifth, I think it is, and they have a -9 goal difference. Okay, so they've got a couple of players. A guy called Derek Kutesa, who's played 5 matches for them, all 5 of them, and he scored 3. There's another guy called Miroslav Stenanovic, who has scored 2 from 5. Okay, so they've got a couple of strikers we have to watch out for, but realistically, they've got a -9 goal difference in 5 games. So they are leaking goals. They're like Chelsea on preseason. Okay, so we should put I won't say a cricket score because we're not very good at the moment, but Chelsea should have a very comfortable night against what are realistically minnows. And apologies to Servette because I'm sure that's not a fair statement for a team that came third in the Swiss Super League last season. But ultimately, I suspect we're going to. I'm not going to do team selector for this one because I kind of don't think it really matters too much who we put out. I suspect that Enzo will play the same back four, and the same keeper, right? So what we need to solidify our defense, and maybe we'll go with 1-6 and 2-8s as opposed to 2-8s and 1-6, right? Like we did against Manchester City, because we don't need to be on the defensive. We're Chelsea. Even this form of Chelsea is still Chelsea. But if you've learned anything from watching the Swiss national team, is they are very well organized. They are disciplined, they're drilled, and they will run and run and run. So don't expect Chelsea to be able to just turn up and just, play some champagne football and kick the ball around and have a cigarette in the corner and then go back out and score an hat-trick. No, that won't happen. I think we'll end up winning by 3. Okay. My match prediction is 3-0. Okay. I think we'll have a solid defensive game. And I just think we'll hold them at bay because we'll just be, we'll have too much talent on display. But I don't, we can't expect it to be easy is what I'm trying to say, because, Chelsea have made that mistake so many times in the recent past where we just turn up and expect, because we're Chelsea, that we're going to win easily. And then lo and behold, they play a low defensive block and then snatch a goal or 2 on the break and we lose, right? If we lose these playoffs, right, we are out of the Conference League. Now, as ignominious as it might be to be in the Conference League, by God, we're in it now, and I want us to win it. Okay? So that's the kind of the side we're playing. That's the match prediction. That's on Thursday night. Very much looking forward to this, and I suspect that in the front 3 we might give some different players a run out. Maybe Gui out front. I think that'd be good for him to get some minutes in his legs, as they say. Madueke probably on the right, maybe Mudryk on the left. Maybe Nkunku in the 10, or Palmer, with one of them sitting out on the bench. Either way, I don't think it really matters who we put up front. I think we're going to score, because if they're shipping 9 goals in 5 games in the Swiss Super League, then we should be able to rack up a fair goal difference in this first match. Okay, that's all the news that's fit to print, and quite a bit that isn't. And as always, God bless, look after yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.